The Skyward Call. Miskwa watched the eagle soar above the dense forest, a symbol of freedom and guidance for his people, the Cree, as he stood at the edge of the great river. The sky seemed endless, stretching over the vast Canadian wilderness that Miskwa knew like the back of his hand, where every trail told stories of his ancestors. Miskwa's bow rested lightly in his grip, his sharp eyes scanning the landscape, searching for signs of movement among the towering trees and whispering wind. He crouched near a cluster of bushes, listening to the sounds of nature, aware that his hunt today held a deeper meaning than merely feeding his village. As the day grew older, a distant sound broke the peace of the forest, unfamiliar and unsettling, like the groan of a creature Miskwa had never encountered. Miskwa followed the sound toward the river, his heart beating faster as he glimpsed something extraordinary, large wooden canoes with strange figures rowing toward the shore. He hid among the trees, watching in awe as pale-skinned men in odd clothing disembarked, their beards thick and their hands filled with metal tools and strange objects. The air felt thick with change, and Miskwa sensed that these newcomers would bring more than just goods to trade, as their presence already disturbed the land's quiet balance. His mind raced with questions as he turned away from the riverbank, running swiftly back to his village, the weight of what he had seen pressing on his thoughts. Aataentsic, the village elder, sat quietly by the fire, her hands resting on her knees as she looked up at Miskwa, sensing his unease before he spoke. Miskwa described the strange visitors, their large boats, and the foreign items they carried, his words falling like stones into the stillness of the circle. Aataentsic nodded thoughtfully, her gaze far away, and she spoke of old prophecies, of a time when new people would come, offering gifts but also taking much in return. "The sky has spoken, Miskwa," she said quietly, "but it is you who must listen and choose wisely, for the path ahead is unclear, and our land depends on your actions." Miskwa spent the next days in silence, his mind heavy with the elder's words, watching the traders as they made contact with other villages nearby. He saw his people grow curious, drawn to the newcomers' strange goods, knives sharper than stone, shimmering fabrics, and metal pots that boiled water swiftly. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of red, Miskwa approached Erika, one of the traders, whose steady eyes and quiet demeanor had set her apart from the others. Erika greeted him cautiously, offering him a piece of cloth, but Miskwa did not reach for it, his thoughts too preoccupied with the impact of this new relationship. "Our land feeds us," Miskwa said slowly, searching her face for understanding, "but I fear these trades will drain its spirit, leaving nothing for the future." Erika's gaze softened, and she seemed to consider his words carefully, for though she came seeking fur, she had seen the beauty of the land and its importance. The days passed, and Miskwa's village began to exchange more with the traders, gaining new tools but also noticing how the animals grew scarcer, the forests quieter. Each time Miskwa returned from the hunt, the woods felt emptier, as if the spirits of the land were retreating, watching their sacred balance slip away. Aataentsic reminded Miskwa of his role, urging him to find a way to protect the land while understanding the forces that had now entered their lives. Torn between preserving his people's traditions and embracing the opportunities the traders brought, Miskwa sought solace in the quiet corners of the forest. One evening, after a long hunt, Miskwa found Erika by the river, alone, staring at the water as it flowed swiftly toward the unknown, her thoughts as deep as his own. "There must be balance," Miskwa said, approaching her, "or both your world and mine will suffer, and the land will wither, forgotten under the weight of greed." Erika turned to him, her expression thoughtful, and for the first time, she seemed to understand the gravity of what Miskwa had been trying to say all along. "Perhaps there is a way," she said quietly, "to trade, but not at the cost of the land. If we take only what is needed, and not more, we can both thrive." Miskwa considered her words, seeing a glimmer of hope in them, a path forward that might allow his people to maintain their way of life without losing everything. He spoke with Aataentsic about his idea, sharing Erika's willingness to listen, and together they devised a plan that would safeguard their land and their future. Miskwa gathered the hunters, explaining how they could manage the land sustainably, hunting only when necessary and using every part of the animal with respect. "The land gives us life," Miskwa said to his people, "and we must honor it in return by taking only what we need and ensuring that it continues to thrive." At first, some in the village were reluctant, excited by the new trade goods, but Miskwa's steady leadership and the words of Aataentsic brought them back to reason. Erika, too, spoke with the other traders, urging them to adopt more respectful practices, though not all of her companions shared her growing respect for the land. As the seasons passed, Miskwa's village became known for their sustainable practices, and the traders, seeing the long-term benefits, began to follow their example. The forest slowly recovered, and the animals returned, their presence a testament to the care with which Miskwa and his people treated the land. Though the trade continued, it was no longer a ravenous hunger for furs, but a balanced exchange, one that allowed the Cree to keep their traditions alive. Miskwa watched from the hills as the traders left in their boats, their cargo lighter, but their hearts filled with a new understanding of the wilderness's true worth. Erika waved to him from the bow of one of the canoes, a silent acknowledgement of the partnership they had forged, one built on mutual respect and sustainability. Miskwa felt the wind at his back, the skyward call of the eagle reminding him that while the world was changing, his people would endure, guided by the land's wisdom. Aataentsic smiled at him as he returned to the village, her eyes full of pride, knowing that Miskwa had found a way to honor both the old ways and the new world. As the years passed, Miskwa taught the younger generation how to live in balance, how to hunt with respect, and how to navigate the complexities of trade. His people prospered, not because they had embraced everything new, but because they had learned to blend the best of both worlds while protecting the land. Erika returned each year, bringing new goods but also stories of other villages adopting sustainable practices, spreading Miskwa's vision far beyond his own land. The once distant traders now looked to the Cree as stewards of the land, their respect growing as they witnessed the abundance that careful management could bring. Miskwa's story became a legend among his people, a tale of a hunter who answered the skyward call and protected his land for future generations to inherit. The river flowed on, as it always had, carrying the past, present, and future in its waters, and Miskwa knew that his people's connection to the land would never break. The sky above him remained as vast and limitless as ever, filled with the cries of eagles, the spirits of the land guiding his steps for the rest of his life. Each morning, Miskwa stood at the edge of the forest, his heart at peace, knowing that his people had found their path in a world forever changed by the winds of trade. And though the future remained uncertain, Miskwa believed that so long as his people listened to the land, they would always find a way to endure. Miskwa's legacy lived on, not in the goods traded or the wealth gained, but in the harmony his people had achieved with the earth, the true wealth of the wilderness. The Cree continued to hunt, fish, and live off the land, but now they did so with a mindful respect for nature's balance, ensuring their future for generations. Miskwa's wisdom echoed through the forests, carried by the wind and the rivers, a reminder that true strength lies not in what is taken, but in what is preserved. The traders who once came seeking only profit now understood the value of the land itself, and they too became part of the story of balance and respect. Erika's final visit came with a message of hope. More traders were embracing sustainable practices, learning from the Cree how to live in harmony with the earth. Miskwa smiled as he listened to her words, knowing that the skyward call he had answered had led not only his people, but others, to a future of peace and balance. As Erika's boat faded into the distance, Miskwa felt a weight of generations on his shoulders lift, replaced by the knowledge that his land was safe. His people would continue to thrive, not because they had conquered the land, but because they had learned to live in harmony with it, their future as bright as the sky. The stars twinkled overhead as Miskwa lay by the fire that night, his heart full of peace, his spirit soaring as high as the eagle that had called him to action. And in the quiet of the night, the land whispered back its gratitude, a song carried on the wind, a promise of life, and a future guided by respect and wisdom.